The night was quiet, and the small town was calm. Most houses were dark. Only a few windows glowed with weak yellow light. In this peaceful street lived Daniel, an ordinary man with an ordinary life. He never expected that the house next door, which had been empty for months, would soon change everything. One morning, Daniel saw a moving truck outside that old house. Boxes were carried in, heavy bags too. But what caught his eyes was the woman who stepped out. She was tall, her skin pale like silver under sunlight, and her eyes seemed too sharp. Almost glowing, the neighbors whispered. The widow has moved in. But no one knew her name. Daniel only watched from his porch, curiosity pulling at him. At first, the new neighbor kept to herself. She did not wave, she did not smile. She left the house only at night, walking with slow steps as if studying the stars above. Strange humming sounds came from her house, especially after midnight sometimes. Daniel thought he saw light leaking through the windows, blue and soft, not like normal lamps. It was like something alive was moving inside that house. Daniel tried to ignore it, telling himself it was none of his business. But the mystery was heavy, pulling him closer every day. He began to notice small details. The neighbor's curtains never opened. Her car was never parked outside, and sometimes he swore he heard whispers in a language he did not understand. A strange melody that made his skin cold. One evening, Daniel returned home from work. Tired and restless, the street was silent, too silent. Then he noticed movement in his garden. The widow was there, standing near his fence, staring at him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Like burning coals hidden under ash, Daniel froze, unsure what to say. Before he could speak, she raised her hand slowly. Not in greeting, but in warning. "You should not stay outside tonight," she said. Her voice calm but heavy. Daniel tried to laugh, asking if there was a storm coming, but she only shook her head. "Not a storm," she whispered. "Something else." She turned and walked back to her house, leaving Daniel shivering though the air was warm. That night, Daniel could not sleep. The humming from the house next door grew louder. It was like a machine powering up, or maybe like a song sung by metal and light. The walls of his bedroom vibrated softly. Daniel pressed his ear to the window, and his heart pounded. He wanted to look, to know, to see. But fear held him still. Suddenly the noise stopped. Silence fell heavy. Then came a knock on his door. Sharp and slow, Daniel's body turned cold. He opened the door, and there she stood. The widow, her silver skin shining faintly under the moonlight, her eyes locked on his, unreadable. In her hands, she held a small device glowing with blue light. "I need to speak with you," she said. "Now." Daniel stepped back, unsure. Every instinct told him to close the door, to run, but curiosity was stronger. He led her inside. The air around her seemed heavy, strange, like carrying the scent of faraway worlds. She looked around his simple living room, and for the first time she smiled. But it was not the smile of comfort. It was the smile of someone hiding a dangerous secret. She sat down without waiting, placing the glowing device on the table. "This place is not safe anymore," she said. Her voice low, Daniel tried to ask what she meant, but she raised her hand again. "You will know soon, but first, you must listen." The device pulsed with light, casting strange shadows across the walls. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Something inside him whispered that this moment would change his life forever. The widow leaned closer, her voice now soft. "I am not what you think I am," she said. And in her glowing eyes, Daniel saw something impossible, the reflection of stars moving as if her soul carried the universe itself. At that moment he understood his new neighbor was not human. She was something else, something far older. And she had come with a purpose that somehow needed him. Daniel's heart raced, fear mixing with wonder. The quiet town outside remained asleep, but inside his small house, a secret was unfolding that could change not only his life, but maybe the fate of all mankind. And it all began with the strange widow who had moved in next door. Daniel sat frozen as the widow's words echoed in the room. "I am not what you think I am," she said again, her voice quiet but sharp like glass. The blue glow from the strange device painted her face in cold light, making her eyes look like two burning moons. Daniel felt his throat dry, his mind racing with questions. Yet his body could not move. She leaned back slowly, her silver fingers brushing across the table. "You humans live with eyes closed," she whispered. "You see only your streets, your skies, your stars. But beyond this there is a larger war, a greater hunger, and I carry its shadow." Her words were heavy. yet spoken in simple English as if she had practiced for years. Daniel asked, voice trembling, "What are you?" The widow tilted her head, studying him like a scientist studying an insect. Finally, she said, "I was born far from here. Not on your earth, not under your sun. I came from a world where the oceans burn black and the sky never sleeps. I came here after my mate was killed, hunted down, and I am the last of my kind still free." Daniel's heart pounded. The air in the room felt thinner. Her calm voice made it worse, because it sounded too real, too steady to be madness. She tapped the device on the table, and the light expanded. Shapes floated in the air, glowing lines forming patterns. Daniel's eyes widened. He saw a map of stars, galaxies arranged like a spider's web. "Your Earth is here," she said, pointing to a small shining dot, a weak place, hidden at the edge of known space. The map shifted, showing ships like shadows, sharp and terrifying. "And here, my enemies," she whispered. "Hunters, destroyers, killers of my family. They move closer every year." Daniel struggled to breathe. His world was cracking. Aliens were real, and one of them lived right next door. More than that, she was a widow running from something far bigger, he asked, almost whispering. "Why me? Why are you telling me this?" Her glowing eyes fixed on him, unblinking. "Because you are human," she said. "And humans are different, strange, impossible to predict. Your kind carries something my kind cannot create." She paused, her voice heavy with meaning. "And I need it." Daniel's blood turned cold. He wanted to run, but he could not. The widow leaned closer, her presence filling the room. Her skin shimmered faintly, not like makeup or reflection, but like liquid metal flowing under her flesh. Her voice dropped lower. "I lived among you for years, hiding, watching, waiting. But now time is short, I cannot wait anymore. And you must decide." She stood up, walking to the window. Pulling the curtain back outside, the night sky looked normal, filled with stars, but she raised her hand. The device hummed, and suddenly Daniel saw strange lights above the clouds. Not planes, not satellites, but silent figures moving in formation. His stomach tightened, fear clawing at his chest. "They are searching," she whispered. "And if they find me, they will find you too. Your entire planet will burn." Daniel felt dizzy. His knees weak, the widow turned back, her face calm, her eyes glowing brighter. "You ask why you?" she said. "Because you are my only choice. Your courage, your imagination. These are things my kind lost long ago. I cannot fight them alone, but with you I might survive. And maybe Earth will too." He stared at her, disbelief and terror battling inside him. She stepped closer, close enough for him to feel the strange heat that radiated from her body. "Listen carefully," she said. "You must promise silence. You must keep my secret. In return, I will give you something no human has ever touched before." She lifted the device again, the blue glow pulsing like a heartbeat. From its surface rose an image, a vision of something strange and powerful, a weapon not of steel, but of thought and light. Daniel's breath caught. His body shivered as the image pressed into his mind like a whisper. He asked, voice weak, "Why me? I am no soldier, I am no hero." The widow smiled faintly, but it was not a kind smile. It was sharp, knowing. "Exactly," she said. "You are not chosen for your strength, but for your humanity. The thing that makes you weak is the thing that makes you dangerous to them." The device dimmed, the visions fading, leaving the room dark again. Daniel sat in silence, his chest rising fast. He wanted to deny it, to say this was madness, but deep inside he knew the truth. The lights he saw above the clouds were real. The danger was real. And his new neighbor was no ordinary widow. She placed the device back in her cloak and moved to the door. Before leaving, she turned once more, her glowing eyes piercing through him. "Tomorrow night I will return," she said. "You must decide. Will you walk away, or will you make a deal that will change your life? And maybe your world?" The door closed behind her, leaving Daniel alone in the darkness. But he knew sleep would not come that night. For the secret of the widow was now burning inside his mind, and nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The next evening, Daniel sat restless in his living room, the silence of the house pressing heavy on his chest. Every sound from the street made him jump. Every shadow felt alive. He could not forget the widow's glowing eyes or the map of stars she had shown him. Her words played again and again in his head. "Tomorrow night I will return, and you must decide." When the knock finally came, it was soft but sharp, like the tapping of metal against wood. Daniel's heart skipped, his hand trembled as he opened the door. There she stood, the widow, silver skin shining faintly in the moonlight, her cloak wrapped tight around her frame. She stepped inside without waiting, her presence filling the small room again, bringing with it that strange heavy air that smelled faintly of ozone and smoke. She sat at the table, pulling out the same device. Its blue glow lit up the walls and shadows stretched like claws. Daniel swallowed, his voice breaking. Why me? Why are you here? The widow's eyes burned brighter, but her tone stayed calm. Because time is ending. I have no more walls to hide behind. No more places to run. If I face them alone, I will die, and if I die, Earth will not survive either, Daniel tried to argue. I am nobody, I am not trained. I don't know anything about your world. But she leaned forward, her voice cutting through his doubt. And that is why you are perfect. My enemies know every alien mind, every trick, every move. But they cannot predict humans, they cannot read your kind. They cannot understand the strange fire inside you. And that fire is what I need. She pressed her palm against the device. And suddenly the table lit with images. Not maps this time, but weapons, ships, and alien cities glowing in impossible shapes. Then the vision shifted, showing human cities burning, towers falling, skies ripped apart by fire. Daniel's stomach twisted, sweat covering his skin. The widow's voice lowered, steady and cold. This is what comes if I fail, if you refuse. If I cannot fight them back, she leaned back, eyes fixed on him. I came here with an offer. A deal. You help me and I give you knowledge beyond imagination. Power your kind has never seen. I will teach you to use it, to bend it, to control it. You will become more than human. Her words pressed into Daniel's chest like a weight. He asked, his voice barely a whisper. And if I refuse? Her face turned still, unreadable. Her glowing eyes softer now. Then I will leave. I will try to fight alone, but I will fail. And when I fail, Earth will burn, your people will burn. Your life will end before it ever began. The room felt colder. Her words echoing like a sentence from a judge. Daniel shook his head, trying to think. His hands tight against his knees, he wanted to say no, to push her out. To return to his normal life, but his mind was not silent. Curiosity whispered louder. What if she was right? What if humanity truly carried something the galaxy feared? What if he really could hold power no one else ever touched? And, deeper still, he felt a strange pull toward her. Not love, not trust, but gravity. Like his life was now tied to hers in a way he could not escape. The widow seemed to sense his struggle. She softened her tone. Daniel, she said, speaking his name for the first time. I lost everything, my mate, my world, my home, all taken by them, but in you, I see something I have never seen before. You do not understand how rare it is, how dangerous it is, and how much it could change everything. Her words felt like fire and ice at the same time. She placed the device in front of him. Closer than before, its glow reached his hands, warming his skin, making his veins hum as if touched by electricity. This is a fragment of what I offer, she whispered. The light expanded. Wrapping his hand in a faint aura, Daniel gasped, feeling thoughts not his own slide into his mind. Visions of stars, battles, creatures with wings of fire, ships tearing across galaxies. The knowledge felt endless, terrifying, intoxicating. He pulled his hand away, heart racing, sweat dripping from his brow. The widow's gaze did not waver. This is only a glimpse, accept my deal, and it all becomes yours. Reject it, and you return to silence. But silence will not save you. The room was quiet. The only sound was Daniel's own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He stared at her, at the strange woman who was not a woman at all, at the glowing device that seemed alive. Every instinct screamed to run, yet every thought burned to know more. Finally, his voice cracked as he whispered, "What must I do?" A faint smile curved on her lips, not of victory, but of relief. "You do not need to fight yet," she said, "only to listen, to learn and to trust. When the time comes, you will know what to do, and you will not stand alone." She rose, pulling her cloak tight, her glowing eyes soft now, almost human. "Tomorrow the first test begins," she said. "Be ready, for once you step onto this path, there is no turning back." With that she left, vanishing into the night, leaving Daniel alone in the glow of the device. His hand still tingled, his heart still thundered, and deep inside he knew he had made a choice. A deal with the alien widow next door, a deal that would change his life forever. The next night arrived heavy with silence. The sky thick with clouds. Daniel sat in his small living room, staring at the glowing device the widow had left behind. It pulsed slowly like a sleeping heart, every beat humming softly through the air. He wondered if he had made a mistake, if agreeing to her deal had already marked him for something he could not escape. Then came the knock, not loud, not soft, but steady. Daniel opened the door and the widow entered, her cloak brushing the floor, her silver eyes sharp. She did not waste words. She placed the device on the table and said, "Tonight, your first test begins." Daniel's chest tightened, fear and curiosity clashing inside him. She pressed her hand against the device, and the room shifted. The walls melted away. The floor beneath his feet dissolved. Suddenly, Daniel stood in darkness, weightless, his body floating as if he had been thrown into space. Panic burst through him. He kicked and waved his arms, but there was no air, no ground, only endless black filled with stars. Her voice echoed all around him, calm and strong. "Do not fight the void, feel it, let it carry you." Daniel gasped, yet somehow he still breathed. He forced himself to stop moving. To still his body, slowly he felt something strange, an invisible current holding him, moving him. His heart pounded. His mind screamed, but his body began to adjust. He floated, not falling, not rising, simply existing in the vast sea of stars. The widow appeared before him, her form glowing faintly. "This is your first test," she said, "to accept the unknown, to survive the emptiness without breaking. My enemies fear your kind because you do not give up when everything is stripped away." Daniel's body trembled, but he clenched his fists and stared at her, his fear mixing with defiance. The stars around them shifted, turning into shapes, puzzles of light. Strange patterns floated, glowing symbols that twisted and changed when Daniel looked at them. "Your second test," the widow said, "to solve what is not meant for your mind, to think as no alien can, use your imagination, not logic. For logic will fail here." Daniel's head throbbed as he studied the symbols. They spun, scattered, reformed into endless puzzles. He tried to follow them with reason, but nothing made sense. Every answer broke apart. Frustration burned inside him. But then he remembered her words, imagination, not logic. He closed his eyes and let his thoughts drift like dreams when he opened them. The patterns shifted into a clear image, a door made of light. Waiting for him, the widow smiled faintly. "You see? This is why I chose you." The door opened, and suddenly Daniel stood in a burning field. Flames licked the ground. Shadows of monstrous figures moved in the smoke. His chest tightened, fear clawing through his veins. The widow's voice came again, sharper now. "This is your third test. To face fear and endure it, what you see are not real, but your mind will believe they are. If you run, you fail. If you stand, you pass." The shadows grew, massive forms with wings of fire and teeth like knives. Daniel's legs wanted to flee. His body screamed to escape, but he clenched his fists, his breath ragged, and forced himself to stand. The monsters circled him, their roars shaking the air. His knees buckled, but he stayed, heart hammering, sweat dripping. He shouted, his voice raw, "I am not afraid of you," and with that, the fire and shadows vanished, leaving silence. Daniel dropped to his knees, gasping, his body shaking from the weight of the trial. The widow appeared once more, her silver skin glowing brighter than ever. "You endured," she said, her voice filled with something like respect. "You bent the void. You solved the unsolvable. You faced the fear. These are things even my strongest cannot do. And yet a human can." Daniel lifted his head, exhausted but burning with new fire inside him. He asked, his voice rough, "Why are you doing this to me?" The widow stepped closer, her eyes glowing softer. "Because I must know if you are worthy," she said. "My deal is not a gift, it is a burden, and only one who survives the tests can carry it." She helped him stand, her touch warm, almost human now. "But remember," she whispered, "these were only the beginning. What comes next will not be illusions. It will be real, and failure will mean death, not just for you, but for all of Earth." Daniel's stomach twisted, his body still weak, yet inside a strange resolve had started to grow. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of something greater than himself. The widow stepped back into the shadows, her cloak wrapping her form. "Rest," she said. "Tomorrow, the true challenge begins." Her glowing eyes lingered on him, unreadable, carrying secrets he could not yet understand. And then she vanished, leaving Daniel in silence once more. His body ached, his mind burned, But deep inside, a voice whispered that he had passed the first step, and there was no turning back now. The following night came heavy with silence, the kind of silence that carried a warning. Daniel waited inside his house, his body still sore from the strange trials, his mind restless from the visions. He thought about the void, the puzzles, the fire and shadows, and how the widow's tests had nearly broken him. Yet something had changed inside him. Something stronger had awakened. A spark he could not explain. The knock came again, sharp and slow. Daniel opened the door and the widow entered, her silver eyes glowing brighter than before, her cloak damp from the night air. She did not speak at first. She only studied him, her gaze steady, as if weighing his soul. Finally she said, "You passed the beginning. Now you must understand why I came, for my enemies are closer than I feared." She placed her device on the table, the glow spreading like liquid light across the walls. The room filled with shapes, shifting shadows of ships, weapons, and faces not human. Daniel's breath caught, his chest tightening as he stared. The widow's voice lowered, heavy and sharp. "These are the hunters, the ones who killed my mate, the ones who destroyed my world. They move through the stars like wolves feeding on the weak, breaking every planet that cannot resist." Daniel leaned closer, his throat dry. "And they are coming here?" The widow nodded, her glowing eyes burning with anger. "Yes, Earth is hidden, but not forever. The hunters already search this sector. Their ships draw nearer with each passing season. When they find you, your armies, your weapons, your fire, none of it will matter. Your kind will be broken in days." Her words cut into him, heavier than any fear he had known. Daniel tried to argue. "Humans will fight. We always fight." But she shook her head slowly. "You fight with fire, with steel, with courage. But they fight with hunger, with technology beyond your imagination, with cruelty you cannot measure. Earth is not ready, and you must face that truth." She pressed her hand against the device, and new visions filled the room. Daniel saw alien ships blotting out the sun, their hulls sharp like blades, glowing with unnatural light. He saw cities turn to ash, skies raining fire, oceans boiling under the weight of energy beams. And then he saw faces, human faces, crying, screaming, reaching out, only to vanish in smoke. His stomach twisted, his fists clenched, his heart breaking under the sight of his own world destroyed. The widow's voice trembled now, though her eyes stayed steady. "I have carried this truth alone for too long. I watched my world fall. I watched my people vanish. And I swore I would not let another world die the same way. Not if I could stop it." She leaned closer, her words sharp as knives. "That is why I came here. That is why I need you." Daniel stared at her, his mind spinning. "Why me again?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. "Why not go to leaders, armies, scientists?" Her glowing eyes narrowed. "Because they would not believe me. They would lock me away, cut me open, try to steal my knowledge and destroy themselves with it. Your leaders see only power, not survival. But you have nothing to lose, nothing to prove. You are free to choose." Daniel's chest burned, anger and fear twisting together. He wanted to scream, to deny, to run, but instead he whispered, "Then what do you want from me?" The widow's eyes softened for the first time, glowing less like fire and more like sorrow. "I want you to be my ally, not my soldier. I want you to stand where no alien can stand, in the heart of the storm, unseen, unpredictable, dangerous in ways they cannot measure. That is what humans are, Daniel. That is what makes you different." Daniel swallowed hard, his body trembling. He thought of his small life, his quiet street, the neighbors who still whispered about the strange widow next door. None of them knew what danger floated above their skies. None of them could even imagine. But he knew now. He had seen it, he had felt it, and there was no escape. The widow touched the device again, the visions fading, the room returning to silence. "Tomorrow the hunters may not come, but one day they will," she said, her voice soft but heavy. And when that day arrives, we must be ready, you must be ready, for you will carry the spark of resistance, and with that spark we might survive. Daniel lowered his head, his fists tight, his heart racing. He wanted to refuse, but he could not. The truth was too heavy, too sharp, too real. The world was not safe anymore, and his life was no longer his own. He lifted his gaze, staring into her glowing eyes, and for the first time he said without trembling, "Then show me. Show me how to fight them." The widow's expression changed. Not a smile, not sorrow, but something new. Respect. She placed her hand on his shoulder, her touch warm, almost human. "You are beginning to understand," she said. "And that is why they fear you, more than you will ever know." The night pressed heavy around the house, but inside, a storm of secrets had broken open. And Daniel knew. The true threat was no longer just the widow's burden. It was his as well. And the hunters in the sky would one day learn that humans were not prey. They were something else entirely. The night began like any other, but Daniel felt the air was heavier. The widow stood in his living room, her silver eyes glowing sharper than he had ever seen, her cloak pulled tight, her voice carrying a weight that made the walls tremble. "They are here," she whispered. "The hunters have found us." Daniel's chest froze, his breath shallow. Through the window he saw the sky flicker with strange lights. Not stars, not planes, but shadows moving like predators above the clouds. They were silent, but the silence itself was worse than thunder. It pressed against his bones. The widow placed her device on the table, its glow pulsing fast, like a heartbeat running out of time. "This is the moment," she said. "The choice you make now will decide more than your life. It will decide the path of your world." Daniel's hands shook, sweat dripping from his forehead, his voice cracked. "I am not ready." The widow's gaze burned into him. "No one is ever ready, Daniel. Not until the choice stands before them." The house shook faintly, a low vibration rolling through the ground. Daniel stepped back, fear biting into his chest. "What is that?" The widow's silver skin shimmered, her voice calm but sharp. "They're ships, cloaked above us, testing the air, scanning for me. Once they find me, they will burn everything around me." Daniel felt the weight of his deal, the weight of every test he had faced. He remembered the void, the puzzles, the fire, and now all of it led here, to this moment. He wanted to run, to hide. But deep inside he knew there was no hiding, not anymore. The widow stepped closer, her voice low, urgent. "You must choose, stay silent and watch your world fall, or fight with me. Not with weapons of steel, but with the one thing they fear, your humanity." Her eyes narrowed. "Decide now, for they are already watching." Daniel's fists clenched, his heart pounding like a war drum. He felt the pull of fear, the whisper of surrender, but stronger still was the spark she had awakened inside him. He lifted his gaze, his voice unsteady but firm. "What do I need to do?" The widow's cloak shimmered as she reached for the device. "You will open your mind to me. I will show you what they cannot see. You will guide us not with knowledge, but with imagination. That is the weapon they cannot fight." Daniel's throat tightened. "And if I fail?" Her answer was simple, her glowing eyes sharp. "Then Earth will burn." The air outside cracked, a streak of fire flashing across the sky. Daniel felt his chest seize. The hunters were here, their presence pressing down like the weight of mountains. The widow raised her hand, the device exploding with blue light, wrapping the room in a dome of energy. "Decide now," she said again, her voice shaking with urgency. "Stand with me or fall with them." Daniel closed his eyes, his thoughts spiraling. He thought of his quiet street, of neighbors who had no idea what hunted above them, of the life he had once called ordinary, and he thought of the trials, the puzzles, the fire, the fear, and how he had survived them all. When he opened his eyes again, the spark inside him burned bright. "I choose to fight," he said. His voice strong, the widow's face shifted, for the first time showing true relief. She touched his hand. The device pulsed brighter, and in a surge of light, Daniel felt his mind open. Visions poured into him. Ships above the clouds. Hunters cloaked in shadows, their weapons ready. Their thoughts sharp and cruel. But within that flood of knowledge, Daniel felt something else, something they had not seen. His own imagination cutting through their order. His own strange human fire twisting their patterns, breaking their perfect logic. The widow's voice filled his mind. Yes, this is why I chose you. This is what they cannot stop. Together they reached into the sky, weaving illusions through the hunters' scans. Bending their vision, the alien ships faltered, their movements breaking, confusion spreading among them. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. And hesitation was something they had never known before. But the pressure did not vanish. The threat was not gone. The widow's voice shook. This is only the beginning. They will come harder. They will strike with fury. But you have already wounded them, and now they will see Earth differently. Daniel's body shook, his head burning from the visions, but he stood tall, his breath steady. For the first time, he felt not like prey, but like something else, something dangerous. The widow stepped back, her eyes glowing with a mix of pride and sorrow. You chose the harder path, the path with no return, she whispered. From this night on, you are no longer just Daniel. You are the first light of resistance. The sky outside pulsed with strange fire, shadows moving above the clouds. The hunters had seen something they had not expected, and Daniel knew the final choice he had made tonight would change not only his life, but the fate of his world forever. The night sky burned with strange lights. Daniel stood beside the widow, his heart pounding, his mind still echoing with the visions she had shown him. Above the clouds, the hunter ships moved like shadows of steel, their forms sharp, their presence heavy. The earth below was silent, unaware of the danger hiding in the dark sky. The widow's device glowed brighter than ever, pulsing like a living star in the center of the room, her silver eyes fixed on Daniel, her voice strong but low. They will strike soon. They always strike when fear rises, but tonight, you will show them why humans cannot be broken. Daniel's throat tightened, his hands shaking, but he nodded, the spark inside him. The strange fire of imagination and defiance burned brighter than his fear. The air cracked, a wave of energy rushing down from above. Shaking the house, rattling the glass, Daniel stumbled. But the widow raised her hand, a barrier of blue light rising around them. They are testing us, she said, her voice steady. They want to see if we will break before they even attack. Daniel clenched his fists, anger rising. Then let's show them we won't. The device flared. And again Daniel felt his mind pulled upward, into the sky. He saw the hunters, dark figures inside their ships, their eyes cold, their thoughts sharp. They saw Earth as weak, soft prey and easy conquest, but Daniel pushed back, not with weapons, not with logic, but with something else, images, wild thoughts, dreams that twisted their vision. He showed them storms that never ended, cities that fought back with fire, humans that refused to kneel even when broken. The hunters recoiled, their perfect order breaking. They had expected fear, surrender, silence, but instead they saw chaos they could not control. The widow's voice echoed in Daniel's mind, fierce and proud. Yes, this is why they fear you. This is what they cannot kill, your imagination. Your refusal to accept chains, this is the human weapon. The ships above shifted, their formations breaking as confusion spread. But one hunter pushed forward, a massive vessel glowing with red light, its weapons charged, energy burning through the clouds ready to strike. Daniel felt the heat of its power even from the ground. His chest tight, he shouted, his voice raw. No, and with that word the device exploded with light. Weaving his defiance into the sky, the massive ship faltered, its energy beam twisting, breaking apart before it struck. The widow turned to him, her silver eyes wide with something rare, awe. You bent their weapon, she whispered. You turned it against them without touching it. Daniel gasped for air, his body trembling, sweat pouring down his face. I didn't plan it, he said. I just refused to let it happen. The hunters hesitated, their silence louder than any roar. Daniel felt their confusion, their fear of something they had never known before. Not a weapon, not a strategy, but raw human stubbornness turned into strength. The widow raised her voice, loud and sharp, speaking not just to Daniel, but to the sky itself. Do you see now? This is why you cannot win here. This is why humans are not prey. They are the chaos you cannot predict, the fire you cannot extinguish. For a long moment, the hunters lingered, their ships glowing above the clouds. Then slowly they pulled back, their lights fading, their presence retreating into the dark sky. The silence that followed was deep, heavy but filled with victory. Daniel collapsed to his knees, his body weak, his chest heaving. The widow knelt beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, her voice softer now, almost gentle. They will return, they never forget. But tonight you showed them something they will never understand. Tonight you showed them what it means to be human. Daniel lifted his head, his eyes burning with exhaustion but also with something stronger, hope. He looked at her, voice rough. Did we win? The widow's silver eyes shimmered, carrying both sorrow and pride. No, she said. We survived. And sometimes survival is the first victory. The device dimmed, the glow fading into silence. The house stood quiet again, the night sky above calm as if nothing had happened. But Daniel knew everything had changed. The widow rose, her cloak wrapping around her, her voice firm. This was only the beginning. The hunters will return, but now they will come with caution, with hesitation, and that is the seed of their defeat. Daniel stood slowly, his body weak but his spirit burning. He was no soldier, no hero, yet tonight he had stood against the greatest threat in the galaxy and forced it to step back. He looked at the widow, his voice steady. Then when they return, we'll be ready. For the first time since he had met her, the widow truly smiled, not the sharp smile of secrets, but the smile of someone who had found hope again. Outside, the world slept, unaware of how close it had come to ending, unaware that in a small house an ordinary man and an alien widow had stood together against the darkness, unaware that a single choice had lit a spark that could one day save them all. And in that silence, Daniel knew his life was no longer ordinary. He was bound to a secret, to a promise, and to a fight that had only just begun. The hunters would return, the battles would grow, but humanity would not fall quietly, because in the vast cold of the galaxy, humans carried something no alien could ever steal. Imagination, defiance, and the fire to fight even when the night seemed endless. And that fire, Daniel now knew, was the most dangerous weapon of all.